Now, I want to talk about the design in some of the social issues you just mentioned. What are some examples of using design to tackle social community issues?
Yes. Yes, again, through the conference I know a little, having done the conference, I know a little bit about your National Development Plan. So I know that there are 9 challenges in the National Development Plan. There are not enough jobs, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And one of the things that we were discussing in the conference is, you know, those challenges could be design challenges. They could be rewritten or rebriefed as design challenges, where you could get different stakeholders to come together, so it's a multiple stakeholder process, to bring those people together to say, how can we listen to people better and how can we develop better strategies to support growth and listen to the people on the ground. And there are many examples of this all over the world. Now it takes a slightly different methodology, but I remember Ezio Mancini from Italy, he showed a lovely slide which I think one of his students in New York had done, which showed different innovation labs and design labs, different ways of bringing people, creating safe spaces to experiment, where people and policymakers can meet together and actually say, does it have to be this way? Could we do this differently? What happens if we listen to the people we're making change for? And you know, even listening to the young African designers that we had at the conference, you know, there's so much potential here. And we had this idea that, you know, a country wants to increase its GDP, which is gross domestic product, as a measure of its economy. And we thought that, well, actually GDP could also stand for greater design potential. So how can Africa actually achieve increased GDP, gross domestic product, through achieving its GDP, its greater design potential? And that's something that I think was helpful for people to think about.
Wow. Now, does it take a re-education of people, or how do you get people on board a design policy when maybe it's something that they've never worked with before?
Yes. Well, I think most people have never worked with a design policy, but then most people have never worked with an innovation policy or a health policy or an education policy. I think it's how you influence the people at the top, the policymakers. And I welcome your question, because of course it's like a 3-stepped stage, 3 steps of maturity. So you can go from having a design policy, but actually it's a deeper task to try and change culture in government, people who are making policy, to have design in policy. But then maybe the 3rd step, the next step up, is the design of policy. How do people create policy? And I think that's where design-based methods can actually have an influence in changing the way that happens, to make them more successful and more relevant to people's lives.
Would that mean restructuring?
I'm not sure what restructuring could mean. That sounds a bit sort of a bit scary. But
I don't mean for it to
I don't mean
sound
to
scary.
restructure democracies or anything like that. But I think what it can do is find new ways of working. So bring people together in different ways to help them visualize and map ideas, to listen to and do insight research into what the real challenges are for the people on the ground. You know, I had the wonderful chance yesterday to go out to a beautiful, I'll not say the actual name, but I went out to a beautiful place outside of Cape Town, a very, very beautiful place. And we had a friend who was driving us there, and he was saying that I guess he'd be a guy in his 50s, 60s, and we were asking him about the change in South Africa. And he's a black African, and he was saying, or an African of color, and he was saying that things have changed so much here. But what really excites him is that it's changed so much here for his children, because his children don't have any experience of what happened in the past. And I think therefore, that's why I said earlier, I think here you've got the Premier Zille behind this design-based strategy. We had Vuyo Jack, who is a Director General for the Department of Arts and Culture, and he stood and he said that he would welcome an opportunity to have design thinking threading through the strategies of South Africa. Wow, that is fantastic. You know, South Africa could be a world leader in that space. You could leapfrog in terms of how you create and develop a design strategy and design policies that actually make a difference for people. It's been very exciting being here.